Rule 23 of the third schedule of our standing orders allows me to ask questions to the council. So this is not to the witness, Mr. Speaker. It's just a clarification. Mr. Speaker, Council Thiankolu gave an allegory where he talked about the monarch of Russia, and he said that Nicholas I, before he passed the execution, he asked the person who was bringing the order whether the convicted person said anything. Mr. Speaker, he seemed to suggest, and I want a clarification from him, because that fellow said that in Russia, it seems that they can't do even the ropes properly, suggesting that they can't do anything properly. And then he juxtaposed that allegory to the trial that was conducted by the Senate here. Mr. Speaker, I was listening carefully. I want him to clarify, did he mean that the Senate was behaving like Russia? It couldn't do a proper job. It couldn't do a rope. Mr. Speaker, can he clarify? Because we didn't take it very kindly.
Counsel.
Mr. Speaker, what I meant in that allegory was that Kondraty Rylev, having miraculously escaped execution, would have saved his life by stopping the very acts that had condemned him to death in the first place, which was subversive utterances against the monarch. And what I meant is that the Honorable Kawira Mwangaza, having survived the first impeachment, which was based on specified allegations, would have been expected to refrain from the acts and omissions that triggered that impeachment motion, which she had sent. Number two, it would have been expected Kawira Mwangaza, as part of the vilification, would not have gone berating this house itself, and when we get there, we'll be playing a video for you. When Kawira asked, after they took me to the Senate, what happened to me? Nothing happened. Kaende, kaende. And therefore, that's why we said, this time, we urge you to repeat the execution of Kawira, and we see whether the rope will break again.
Well, I hope that explanation is adequate to the issue raised by Mungatana. Senator Sifuna.
Mr. Speaker, I want to direct my question at Counsel for the Assembly, who unfortunately is my former classmate, but I want to understand the propriety of basing an impeachment proceeding on a matter that you have confirmed yourselves is still live in court. We here in the Senate are prevented from discussing matters that are live before the courts before a decision is made. What is the propriety of you basing a claim of, breach of the law or misconduct on a matter that is still live before a court of law that was coming for a decision today?
Counsel.
The answer is as follows, Mr. Speaker. The question of contempt of court is not pending in court. We have a conviction before you. We have an order before you. We have a sentencing before you. That order, as we speak, has not been set aside by a higher court. As a matter of fact, the room for challenging that order in a higher court expired a long time ago because you have only 14 days to appeal. That's the first answer, Mr. Speaker. The second answer, which is very specific to this process before you, is that the governor went to court. When this motion before you was labeled, she went before the High Court in Meru in petition number 24. No, I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker, I don't seem to recall the number, it's not 24, but she went to court in Meru before the Honorable Justice Cherere to stop this process on that very ground that it was sub judice. The court refused. She returned to the court again, the court refused. She went to the Court of Appeal at Nyeri, trying to stop the process before you, claiming that impeachment cannot be based on matters that are before court. And again, the Court of Appeal refused. Lastly, Mr. Chairman, when we were in the Court of Appeal, one of the questions we asked is how can a convictee whose conviction has not been set aside, who has been disobeying a court order for a year, be the one now telling you everywhere about court orders?
Senator Chute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question will go to the witness. Mr. Witness, will I be wrong if I tell you you belong to Committee Maximum because you've admitted before this honorable House that you've been receiving money for months and months illegally, and you've accepted before this House that you've been receiving it illegally? Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
You would not be telling the truth, Mr. Speaker, because we have made numerous efforts to be allowed back to office and serve, even through the court, but you are not allowed. The person culpable is the one paying us for service not rendered.
Senator Osotsi.
This is to the witness, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, looking at the application for this case and even the ruling, the governor is listed as respondent number 3. That is after the county secretary and the Meru County Public Service Board. Is this an admission that the governor is not directly involved in matters of HR, recruitment, and appointment?
It's not an admission.
Senator Roba.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to ask the same question but phrased differently. Mr. Paul Mwaniki Arimi is appearing as a key witness on behalf of the County Assembly. And he is here to give witness on what he found extremely wrong of receiving salary for work not done. And he has admitted that as being wrong. Now, if your convictions are true, shouldn't it have bothered you enough for you to have considered refunding or refusing the acceptance? And accepting the money for this long and appearing as a witness to admit that before this, why didn't you consider not accepting if you considered it was wrong? Thank you.
Thank you. It is wrong legally to receive pay for service not rendered or work not done. What we did as victims of this is we have sought legal redress for a full year from last year up to now, seeking to be allowed to get back and work. Yet still, we have not been terminated from work. What you have been given is a mandatory indefinite leave without any reason. So there would be no issue of refunding monies without any clear structures of how this one should be done. So we have been in court, struggling to be allowed to work. The person culpable is this one sending us on a compulsory indefinite leave with even a rider that you will be paid all the services where you are home. Indeed, it is depressing.
Just to be clear, witness, this is the question that I help you out. You've indicated that you have received, you've been receiving these salaries. This
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
This is a question from the Senator.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
And you've indicated that you ought not have received this money because it is taxpayers' money.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
So the question that the Senator posed then is, did you make an effort
We made
either to
efforts through the
refuse
court.
or to refund?
We did not make efforts to refund, but you made efforts to get back to work.
Very well. Senator Okoiti.
My question goes to Mr. Speaker, sir. My question goes to Counsel for the County Assembly. On trial is the governor of Meru, and one of the grounds is contempt of court. In the evidence that you have laid before this court, are you able to point out to me specifically where the governor is condemned? Specifically where the governor is condemned?
Counsel.
Or convicted of that contempt?
Mr. Speaker, if you open page 440 of our volume 2, the court order, as you note, and has been pointed out previously, this was a case filed against the governor together with 2 other officials. And whenever this order or even the ruling before it talks about the respondents, every reference to the respondents in this order is a reference to the 3 persons who include the governor. And therefore, where a court, as you find in page 441, it says the respondents who we agree include the governor, paragraph 1 at page 441, the respondents are hereby cited for contempt of this court's order issued on 7th October 2022 by failing to allow the applicants back to their offices. Unless the governor says she was not one of the respondents who are condemned here, then she is one of the people who are condemned, and it is not necessary that she be specifically mentioned when they have been found jointly and severally, that's the legal language, jointly and severally culpable.
Senator Chiranke.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir, mine is a very quick clarification or guidance from the Council of the Governor. When you look under Article 183, functions of the county executive, which encompasses county governor, county deputy governor, and CECs, I invite him to give me an interpretation of Article 183 in the interest of time, Part C. It says, and allow me, Mr. Speaker, sir, to read, a county executive committee shall, 1, Part C, manage and coordinate the functions of the county administration and its departments. So I want to get clarification and maybe guidance from the council of on the part of the interpretation on the role of the county executive or county committee member. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Council, did you get that correctly? Did you get the question with clarity?
Sadly, Mr. Speaker, I didn't get the question with clarity. I wondered if the Honorable Senator could clarify the particular aspect of Article 183 that he desires my clarification on. I'll gladly do that.
Senator Chirange, the clarification must relate to what the council handled during the cross-examination. You cannot pick something totally out of that space and seek his clarification. He should clarify on what he said.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I needed the interpretation of Article 183(1)(c) on the role of county executive vis-a-vis, because in a cross-examination, he had indicated that the county secretary should be the one being impeached instead of the governor. That's why I'm inviting him to clarify under Article 183(1)(c) on the functions of the county executive. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Council.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Very briefly, the government, either the national or the county level, is a complex whole, but our constitutional and legal order recognizes that government works through the agency of state and public officers, and wrongdoing in law is individual. Wrongdoing in law is not collective. It's in that respect that we beseech the county assembly to give us a case that shows the individual wrongdoing of the governor or the imputability of the acts of any other functionary in the county government to the governor. The governor is here on trial. You try people for their wrongdoing, and that's my humble view. And thank you so much, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Muma.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. My question is to Council for the County Assembly, and it's in respect of the clip that was played here. Is it your view that a leader takes responsibility for utterances of their spouse?
If it's a strictly legal question, Mr. Speaker, of course, the law was changed a long time ago. Spouses don't take responsibility for the actions of the others. But that's as far as the legalese and the splitting of heirs is concerned. The matter before you is not about criminal or civil liability in a court of law. It is about accountability. It is about the values in our Constitution. If a governor perpetually provides a forum through which our spouse is making utterances that are inflammatory, that could easily lead to violence, as we'll show you, and it is a function hosted by the governor, and on each occasion, the governor does not disown those statements. In the case of the musical performances, we will show you the governor even dancing and enjoying the music, demonstrating to the huge crowds wenye wivu wajinyonge. That is why, Mr. Speaker, when you read the motion before you, it is not talking just about specific acts of the governor. It is also talks about complicity and condoning. If we were in a court of law, we would call it aiding and abetting. But because it's not a court of law, that's why we have chosen the language complicity and connivance in things. First of all, it's a program, it's a session held by the governor. And if that were the law, even in a court of law, Mr. Speaker, and our laws on ethics and integrity, there is indeed, if you see the laws we have cited, a provision for acting through others. And in this case, we want to suggest to you that the governor was acting, as was the case before when we were here, through her husband. Thank you.
Senator Boni.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would like the Council for the County Assembly to help me. And I'm happy to be reminded that he teaches law to our children. Mr. Speaker, the country has seen in that video that the governor of Meru was not in that video. Her voice was not heard in that video. So what I would like you to help me, teacher of law, is the legal high standard of fishing expedition. Would you like to stand down that video purely because your witness has confirmed to this Senate and the whole Republic that the governor was not there, her voice was not heard? And if you still stand that you don't want to stand down the evidence, do you want to teach students at the university that they can edify something that lacks moral and intellectual instruction to a council?
Mr. Speaker, I've now found the volume setting the relevant law. It is volume 3 of the County Assembly's document in answer to the question by the Honorable Senator Kalwale at page, I believe, 37 of our Bado volume 3. We have reproduced section 24, page 37 of the Assembly's volume 3. We have produced section 24 of the Public Officer Ethics Act. And it is clear from that section 1, for purposes of compliance with chapter 6, one can take responsibility for acting through others. And in this case, we humbly submit the governor has been acting through her husband. Number 2, this is how, Mr. Speaker, you know the governor was acting through her husband. In October 2022, the husband is seen on the video saying, "These officers shall never return to office, court order or no court order." And true to his utterance, the governor ensures that they don't return for a full 365 days. And while at it, Mr. Speaker, in any event, I keep repeating, there is a conviction as we speak. And that conviction is res judicata. That is to say, that matter is closed as a legal question because it has not been appealed to a higher court within the time required by law. So as we speak right now, the governor is actually a convict. And those are not my words. There is a court order to that effect.
Now, honorable senators, we have 6 more witnesses to call. And if you read the program, we are supposed to stretch it to 7 p.m. And therefore, I will take one clarification from this side and another one here. Most of these clarifications, you'll pick them as we hear the witnesses. Senator Haji Faki.
Mine is to both the council and council for the county assembly and the witness. There were proceedings before the High Court in Meru where the county secretary, according to the judgment and according to the ruling, was found to be guilty of contempt. And the matter is still ongoing. The punishment has not been meted. Now, isn't that subjecting the governor to a double jeopardy? Because he is facing the proceedings before the court in Meru are still alive. And counsel for the governor said earlier that they were actually in court this morning. And here we are, you want us to impeach the governor based on the same same set of facts. Isn't this a double jeopardy, which in law is not allowed? Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, that's a legal question. I heard it was addressed to both me and the witness. I don't know whether the witness is able to answer.
Proceed. He belongs to your side. You can answer for him.
First of all, Mr. Speaker, it is not correct to say that the question of whether the governor is guilty of contempt is in court. What is in court is the question of sentencing. The question of liability is settled. The only other thing that is in court is the question of purging the contempt. So there is no question of double jeopardy. As a matter of fact, Mr. Speaker, the rule of double jeopardy does not apply to proceedings of impeachment. There are several rulings by the Supreme Court itself that says, and I can quote the Sonko case, the Martin Nyaga-Wambora case, that say impeachment is not about civil or criminal liability. It is about political accountability. It is about ethics. It is about the type of leadership, the type of persons we want holding certain offices. And that is why you find the Article 181